Hey, welcome into another episode of the Halos in the Infield podcast. We're going to take you into the second half, but before we do, we're going to talk about the first half of the season, break down every series, talk about your expectations. Were they where you thought they were going to be? Is this the team that you expected, or you expected a lot more? Are you disappointed, or are you happy? All that and more in this episode with your host, Todd Fox. That is me. Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show. Now, as we start the show, I'm going to ask you something as I got out of a little bit of the Halo Joe episode. Is he encourages everyone to, jump in on the comments. Well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to steal his little shtick, and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Is this team where you thought they were going to be? We're not going to get into the arty mess. We're not going to talk about the politics involved with this team, but we're just going to sum up what happened in the first half, and we're going to talk about the standings. Obviously, the Angels at 41-55, 10 games out of first place. They won 3 before going into the break. And we'll see if your expectations, because I want to know in the comments, are they where they're supposed to be in your mind? Or is this team below or higher than you expected? Or is this exactly where you thought they were going to be? All this we're going to be talking about in this show. We're going to be talking about each series and how the months started. So strap in and let's see what happens with the show and where it goes. And, well, you can give us your comments and thoughts and feedback in the comments, and we'll check them out on the next show. But in this one, we're going to talk about how, the All-Star game just ended. The American League won 10 out of 11 so far, 10 out of the last 11. Our former girlfriend got a home run in that game, so it is what it is. Who cares? Doesn't mean nothing to me anymore. I used to really think the All-Star game didn't need the playoff, push as far as like home field advantage. And I thought that was a stupid idea. And then I got used to it. And now that it's gone, I'm like, man, I don't even want to watch the All-Star game, especially when your players don't play in it. And we don't have really anyone representing. Tyler Anderson got to go and didn't get to play. So let's start off on how the season started. And that was in Baltimore. Corbin Burnes took on Patrick Sandoval. Sandoval won the ace job in the preseason in spring training, and Corbin Burnes was coming fresh off of the trade via Milwaukee. And, this was a day game on a Thursday before a day off, and you thought maybe the Angels had a chance if we got Patrick Sandoval from Team Mexico in 2023 World Baseball Classic. But we didn't get him all 2023 like that, and he came out pitching just like he did in 2023. Didn't last very long. The Angels get pounded 11-3. It wasn't even that close. So a really tough loss on opening day. But then 2 days later, they had a chance to get Ron Washington that first victory. And, well, a guy that we will talk about a lot in April who just straight up struggled. A lot of people wanted to DFA him. A lot of people said, hey, he's no good. We should demote him because his April was terrible. And that was Griffin Canning. We'll talk about how he progressed moving forward. Then you had Reed Detmers. After going 0-2, saving at least some, or salvaging the series, getting a victory. Wow, did he pitch good. And Reed Detmers, boy, it sounds like a long time ago, doesn't it, folks? Reed Detmers pitched a great April. And that's another thing in the comments. Did this season drag on so far, the first half, or did the first half go by like a blink in an eye? It's either one or the other in my mind. But anyway, getting back. Reed Detmers. He pulled up a victory in his first start of the season, and I think in that April, he pitched with a chip on his shoulder. He acted like he was slighted, like he shouldn't be the number 3 starter. He should be the number 1 starter. He's the ace. He's the dog. He's going to implement everything that we heard about going into the season, because all we ever heard about going into the season was Barry Enright and the Angels staff stressing, not dicking around in the strike zone like they did under Numbnuts Nevin, and you thought, okay, they're going to be really aggressive pitching wise, and they're going to be really aggressive hitting wise and on the bases, and they're going to get back to fundamentals and defensive solid play. So we saw a little bit of that, offensively, none of that. I think they pitched to too many strikes in those first two games, but Reed Detmers looked like a freaking ace. It looks like whatever Ron was teaching and Barry Enright was teaching, it worked in that game 3 on March 31st, and the Angels took the win and won 4-1. So then they shifted to Miami. And it was weird to start on the East Coast because, again, we're so used to, as Angels fans, starting either against Oakland or, mostly Oakland, but sometimes Texas, So we're on the East Coast, and we played Miami. And Miami was lousy at that time. They had a series of just awful injuries on the pitching staff, and the Angels took advantage. They won 7-4 on April 1st. Simber got the win in relief. Estevez got a second save, and the Angels won 7-4. Then the next day, they won 3-1 behind Tyler Anderson, who, when I remember predicting this series on our show, I was like, man, I don't like that matchup between Anderson and Luzardo. I thought the Angels would probably go 3-3 on that road trip and, take 2 out of 3 in Miami, but that'd be the game they'd lose. And lo and behold, Anderson pitches his first of his, really good starts this season, because I was totally expecting the Tyler Anderson from last year. This was a new Tyler Anderson, and Tyler Anderson has been keeping the ball down all year. He's been pitching to contact. Not really a strikeout hitter, but he's just been keeping the ball in the ballpark. The pitch is down, and his defense behind him has been picking him up. And you know what? He's been very, very effective, staying ahead of hitters and forcing them to swing at bad pitches. So, that was the first of a many great starts for our all-star Tyler Anderson. So the Angels would get the sweep when Patrick Sandoval got a second chance at redemption, or first chance at redemption, and they blew out the Miami Marlins 10-2. Going to 4-2 on the season. Now, after they won that fourth game, 2 games over 500, season high, by the way, in the first week, a season high. April 5th would start a series of games from April 5th to April 18th against just 2 teams. And again, I've never seen this in all my years of watching Angels baseball, or maybe I forgot. Maybe this has happened before, and I just never really focused on it. But I don't remember playing just, all your games against 2 teams just back to back. It's the weirdest thing ever. They literally would play Boston, Tampa for 2 weeks straight, home and a road. And it was very weird. And I remember going to game 1, April 5th, and the Angels losing that game 8-6 in a wild one. Angels left a gang of guys on base. Soriano would get the loss in relief, and it was those series that early in the season in April. They left a bad taste in your mouth. I remember doing all, because I've done almost every post game show. If you're a fan of the show, fan of the network, I've done pretty much every last one of them. I can remember these games in detail, and it sucks because there was so much left on there. When we were taking phone calls and all the messages and the chat line as we're doing the live broadcast, everyone's like, man, we let that one go. I don't know how many times fans were like, man, that one got away. We should have won this one. We should have won that one. And it's true. Every game you could say that about any team, not to go overboard, but in those 12 games, or not 12 games, in those 13 games against those 2 teams, I was expecting the Angels to win at least 9 of those. I thought that they had the team to do it. Tampa Bay had some early season struggles. They weren't playing on their game. Boston wasn't playing on their game, but we were getting these guys healthy. And so after losing game 1, it was a fun night. The night after we went to that game, Reed Detmers came out again and just pitched his butt off and got a victory to go to 2-0. And he outdueled Wiesert in that game, and the Angels won 2-1. And they were 5-3 at that point. And then they came back and just got shellacked. They left a bunch of guys on base, and Boston took advantage and was just killing the ball. They had like 2 or 3 guys that were just crushing home runs, and it was just they couldn't get those certain hitters out, and the Angels fell to 5-4. So then Tampa came to town, And Tyler Anderson came out there against Zach Eflin, and he killed him. And they won 7-1. And you're feeling good again. You're like, man, this is second straight time Tyler Anderson comes out and pitches his butt off, and you get that first game. And this would start a trend for the Angels, where they would win game one and then start dropping the rest of the series. So you would get your Halo honks out there, and you're like, all right, man, we got that first win of the series. Now we just got to take one more and we win the series. Not so much. So the next game, the Angels blew this game with, Sandoval pitched him behind early, and they could never really get back in the game. They lost to Tampa Bay 6-4, and then they would lose again the following night. Soriano in relief would blow the game as they would lose 4-2 when it was tied at 2. When he came in, the Soriano experiment out of the bullpen wasn't working. They were trying to get him to go 2 or 3 innings. Remember that stuff? That was short-lived. Then we traveled to Boston, and again, second time, they were 6-6, trying to get over 500. Angel fans are like, come on, man, we don't want to go under 500 again. It's too early for this crap. We want to have a strong April. That's what Angel fans have been saying since the days of Socha. Like we got to have a strong April. Stop struggling in the first half. And, well, they got a beautiful shutout win. And Detmers was all of a sudden 3-0 as the Angels won 7-0. But then the next night, Saturday, April 13th in Boston, Weiser gets the victory. Griffin Canning gets shellacked as they lose 7-2 and fall to 7-7. Then Boston in the closeout, Bello outduels Anderson, and Anderson suffers his first loss 5-4 as the Angels, I think the bullpen had helped give that one up as well, even though Anderson was charged those runs, but he took the loss in that one and he fell to 2-1. Then we go to Tampa, and this was a series early in the season where you're just, again, bad taste in your mouth. You felt that the Angels should have won 3 out of 4 at least, because they played them. They should have won all 4. And 7-3, the Angels won the opener. Garcia picked up the win in relief. The Angels went to 8-8. Now, this game I remember vividly because, Jesus, this team, they've gotten a little better in their last couple, extra inning games, but this was a game that was the first one of the season that it just, as an Angels fan, since they put in that new rule, they have not taken advantage or even play like they know the rules. There was missed opportunities, missed bunts. There was guys getting caught stealing, and the bullpen was trying its hardest to win this game for the Angels, and they lost in 13, 7-6 on a walk-off in front of only 12,000 fans. So then they're trying to win the series, and Strickland comes in out of relief. The Angels win 5-4. Fairbanks blows it right there as the Angels come from behind and hold on and win. And so then you had Tampa Bay on Thursday. Pepio outdueled Griffin Canning. This is Griffin Canning's first good game pitched of the season. And he came out there, and even though he took the loss, he only allowed 2 runs, and he really pitched his butt off in this game, and the Angels gave him 0 support. This was another game where, again, leaving guys on base, it just wasn't happening for the Angels. So they took the loss there and would leave the road trip at 9 or leave the season series with Boston and Tampa finished. Angels only winning 4 games out of those, 5 games out of those games against Boston and Tampa Bay. So losing 8. That was not good right there. So then we went to Cincinnati after Tampa Bay. This is one of the longest road trips of the season. It was a 10-gamer. And these two scores look a little off, but they actually played really good against Cincinnati pitching-wise until it got to the bullpen game in that first game where it was 2-1 for the longest time. Anderson was pitching this game. They took Anderson out. The bullpen came in, and I think I can't remember if it was Simber or who, but they gave up a lot of runs, and it was 7-1. They took the loss. Then game 2 against Cincinnati. Again, Cincinnati was playing with not a full deck of cards. They had 5 starters out of that lineup, either due to injury or sickness. So it wasn't a good look for Cincinnati, but they still won 7-5 as Sandoval took the loss. He didn't really pitch good. Ashcraft, outdueled him, and then Pagan outdueled Soriano. Soriano got his first start, and he came in there and didn't pitch all that bad, but once again got no run support. They only sprinkled in a couple hits, and they got swept. So the first time they were swept this season, they were on a 5-game losing streak at that point, and they were 9-13 coming home. First game at home netted everyone's favorite, Reed Detmers at the time, and he went up against Suarez, not our Suarez, and Detmers got the loss. He pitched good enough to get the win, but again, no run support, as the Angels had only mustered in the last 5 games, they had only mustered 9 runs. So taking a loss again against Baltimore, and this was a game, again, you salvaged one on opening day up in there in Baltimore in that opening series. And this series against Baltimore, you felt, okay, they played tough with him. And again, another series when it was over, you're like, we could have swept him, because then Canning comes back, earns his first win, outduels Rodriguez. Estevez gets a nice save, and the Angels win 7-4 by some timely hitting. And then they come back and blow a game they should have won for Tyler Anderson. They lose 6-5. Anderson would get the loss because of inherited runners, and they lose 2 out of 3. So then Minnesota comes to town, and the Angels are 10-15, or 10-15 at this point. And Minnesota's coming to town. They are all sorts of frustrated, and they're not playing good baseball at all. This kick-started them, believe me. They win 6-5, or they win 5-3. Ober outduels Sandoval, who goes to 1-4. Then Paddock beats Soriano 16-5. He goes to 0-4. Angels get worked again the night after, 11-5. Lopez outduels Detmers, and he's starting to struggle at this point as the Angels lose 11-5. So then we have Philadelphia come. The return of Brandon Marsh. And the Philadelphia Phillies, again, another series much like Baltimore, where you felt like you could have won every one of these games, and they should have. And yet they only win one. They win the opener as Simber gets it in relief. Estevez gets his 5th save. The Angels win 6-5, and they're 11-18. And they're not going to have a winning April again. So Angel fans at that point were kind of upset. They lose 7-5 the next night. Alvarado, Estevez blows the game, and the Angels lose 7-5. Then the next night, Wheeler outduels Sandoval. Sandoval probably pitches his second best game of the season. They lose 2-1 behind that awesome offense. Then you have Soriano getting a victory, a nice shutout win in Ohio, as they beat the Shitfucks 6-0. But then they lose the next night 7-1 because, again, you can't pitch to the Naylor brothers. And what do the Angels do? They pitch to the Naylor brothers, and they lose 7-1, then 4-1. Canning and Detmers taking losses, and Detmers is starting to rack them up at this point. He's 3-3. As May 5th ends, the Angels have a robust record of 12-22. Now the Angels have to play the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Kansas City Royals, and the St. Louis Cardinals in the next 10 from May 6th to May 15. At the time, the Cardinals were struggling, the Royals were struggling, and the Pirates were starting to struggle. So we kind of figured maybe we can go 5-5 or maybe go 6-4, try to get closer to 500. Not so much. They lose 4-1 as Anderson gets no run support against Pittsburgh. But the next night, Sandoval picks up a 9-0 shutout. He pitched his ass off in that game. Simber would get the relief win the next game against the Pirates, and they win 5-4. But then we go to Kansas City, or we come home for Kansas City, and Waka outduels Detmers as Detmers gets pounded 10-4. Duffy gets the victory as Estevez would lose a game, blow it for the Angels as they lose 2-1 to the Royals. They come back with Anderson and win 9-3, but then they lose to Seth Lugo as Sandoval takes the loss. He goes to 2-6, and the Royals take 3 out of 4. The Cardinals would get right against the Angels as well, as Cardinals win 10-5 and then 7-6. And then Griffin Canning would get a W, his second win of the season. He pitched good again. And the Angels at that point, by May 15th, are 16-28. And that's where everyone's like, you already got freaking Rendon down at that time. I think Trout was down at that time, and the season is just looking lost already. So then you had Texas at Texas. You're playing your first divisional opponent May 17th on a Friday. Anderson goes in there, defeats our old friend Heaney, dropping him to 0-5. And then Soriano or the Angels lose in extra innings, another 13-inning game. The second longest, both longest games of the season belong to the Angels as they lose in extras 3-2. That was a tough one. Should have swept Texas because the next night Soriano gets the victory, beating our another old friend Lorenzen, and it was 4-1 in that game on May 19th. Then we played Houston, part of that Texas two-step where the Angels won 9-7. As Suarez would get the win in relief, and then you had actually he outdueled Valdez in that one, and then you had a loss in extra innings to Hader, and Estevez takes the loss, blowing that game 6-5 and 10. Houston, they would beat Houston behind Anderson as he beat Brown, and the Angels were 20-30 at that time. Now, again, you're trying to get back to 500 or respectability. The division is not lost by a long shot at that point. They come home to play Ohio. Allen outduels Sandoval to drop him to 2-7. They lose 10-4. And then Ohio beats them with Bybee and Soriano taking the loss 4-3. Then Lively outduels Detmers, who falls to 3-5, 5-4. And in this stretch right here, the Angels would only have 2 wins in 10 games, as not only getting swept by Ohio, but then the Yankees come to town. The Angels win a game in relief, 4-3 late in the game. Matt Moore would pick up the win, and then the Yankees would beat them 2-1 and 8-3 as Sandoval and Anderson take losses in that one. Anderson takes a tough luck loss 2-1, and then they go to Seattle and promptly get swept. They lose 5-4, 9-0, and 5-1. Canning, Detmers, and Moore pulling up the losses in that series. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're 21-38, 17 games under 500. San Diego comes to town, cocky as hell, better record. They're playing better, and they proceed to sweep the Padres. Strickland wins in relief 2-1. They win 4-2 more over Matsui, who blew it. Matsui, I'm sorry. Then Soriano outduels Dylan Cease, and that was a nice game. And all of a sudden, they're 14 games under, and they've won 3 in a row. But then guess who comes to town? Houston. And Houston, Valdez, you got him the last time, not this time. Framer outduels Canning. Canning falls to 2-6, 7-1. And then Brown defeats Anderson. Anderson falls to 5-6. They're 24-40. Angels salvage 1 in relief as Estevez gets the drop on Hader, as Hader won in relief last time. This time, Estevez gets his first victory. And then they go to Arizona, where in a game, again, they played good enough to beat Arizona in the first 2 games. Suffer a loss as Suarez takes the start and gets pounded by Montgomery. Soriano gets a victory over Ciccone. And then Canning gets lit up against Arizona. They lose 11-1, 16 under. And then they played Frisco in June 14th through June 16th in Frisco. Anderson outduels Howard. Moore beats Walker. But they lose 13-6 because Suarez sucks. And then he was DFA'd at that point. And the Angels would fall to 28-43. Then you got Milwaukee here at home. Angels played good enough again in all 3 games, but fell short. Plesac would get a victory in the game we went to. He pitched pretty good, got some luck there, some nice defense. But they would lose 6-3. Canning would fall to 2-8. No run support again. And Anderson, no run support again on the finale on Wednesday as he loses 2-0. And then the Dodgers at LA, the Angels would win an exciting game, 3-2. In 10 innings, a very good surprise right there. But then Glasnow would get them in game 2. Plesac was overmatched, throwing too many pitches up in the zone. Dodgers split that series right there. And then we get to the honk side of things, where everyone was honking their honk, including myself, because at this point, from this point on, it has been rumored and said that the Angels have the easiest schedule moving forward. and with the win-loss total and everything else, right? So in this stretch, you thought the Angels would clean up, and right away, it looked like they were because they played Oakland, beat him 5-1. Canning get the victory. Anderson would get the victory the next night. Matt Moore in relief would get the next victory. Davis Daniel would pitch a gem, one of the best, if not the best, rookie performances as a starting pitcher for his major league debut for the Angels. Davis Daniel, 8 strikeouts, 8 innings, just a great performance. And the Angels pull within 12 games of 500. Then they're 11 games as they beat the Detroit Tigers, and they beat them again. Joyce in relief. And all of a sudden, the Angels are 36-46, 10 games under. And at that time, we're only 7.5 games out of first place. Now, you figure you got one more with Detroit, you got 3 with Oakland, and 3 with struggling Chicago before you play Texas and Seattle. We were honking our honks, regardless of the injuries, regardless of the poor play with runners in scoring position. I and everyone else were just like, hey, man, we can make a run at this if we just can take care of these teams. Nope. Build me up, Buttercup, just to let me down. The Detroit Tigers win a game we should have won. 7-6. So, okay, you lost that one. Let's go to Oakland. Let's get redemption. Nope. You lose 7-5. Soriano takes the loss. Then you proceed to get shut out on back-to-back nights by one of the worst pitching staffs all season long in front of 14,000, supposedly in 11,000. Davis Daniel takes the loss 5-0. Then Contreras takes the loss 5-0. Powerful Estes and Sears get the victory. Then you go to Chicago, and Griffin Canning gets beat, losing 5-1. Tyler Anderson comes back with an all-star performance to go to 8-8 as he beats Kyle Hendricks 7-0. But then they lose 5-0. So the third time in 5 games, they lose 5-0. Wisniewski outduels Soriano. And then you had Gray in Texas defeat Davis Daniel, which that was enough is enough. You got to send him down as he was here in Anaheim. I'm sorry. Leclerc would win in a relief. Garcia would take the loss. And then the Angels would salvage one with Krause getting the victory in relief over Mike Lorenzen, 7-2. Angels were 16 games under. Then you had the Seattle series, which they opened up by losing to Castillo. Made his debut and got lit up, losing 11-0. But they won in 10 innings with Krause over Voth on a walk-off dong by Mr. Dong himself. Then you had Soriano outdueling Kirby. They won 2-1. And then you had Krause in relief over Voth. Contreras with a save, 3-2. So that was your first half. So that'll get us to what I want to highlight here as far as the hitting is concerned. Because obviously we don't have Mike Nelson Trout in the lineup. We don't have him. And, obviously since we had Mike Trout, who's likely going to be back in the next few weeks, probably 3 weeks to be honest. He's still sitting there with 10 home runs and 14 RBIs, 5th on the team in home runs and 5th in the team in RBIs. Well, not 5th in the team in RBIs, but 5th in the team in home runs. You look at these numbers right here. 87 games played, 50 hits, 190 average. Your team leader with home runs is Joe Adell. Your RBI leader is Taylor Ward at 44. So you got, Joe Adell, 15 homers, 43 RBIs. If you kind of like set that for the second half, he's probably due to hit probably 27, 28 home runs and give or take 79, 80 RBIs maybe. Not good. I mean, his stolen base is okay, but his strikeouts are way too high. He's got 86 strikeouts already, only a 195 average. He's got to get that average up, dude. It's terrible. 190 average, let's just say. Logan O'Hoppe has been a plus for me. He's got 80 hits, 14 homers, 42 RBIs. Started the season a little slow, but has gotten it going, and I could see him finishing around the same 28 home runs, about 80 RBIs, unless he catches fire. What I'm liking is the batting average at 276, one of the leaders on the team with average. I think by the end of the season, if he's hovering around 280 to 285, I'm happy with that. And he's been a much, much better defensively. He is your team leader as far as a hitter. A negative for me is Taylor Ward. I can't stand this guy. His lazy noodle arm, his lazy hustle, the fact that his lazy swings, he swings over pitches, too many ground balls. He's got to learn to go to right field too much. A guy with his, with Mike Trout gone, 6 is number 6. You can't trust him. Otani's gone. This is your team, bro. Take it over. Don't let a guy like, 5 to 10 years younger than you, like freaking Logan O'Hoppe or Zach Neto, just become the team leader. This is your team. You be the leader. Nope, he's not the leader. He's batting .228. Yes, the 14 homers and 44 RBIs look okay, but dude, where are you at? You disappear for a week or two at a time, then come back, get on a rage, and everyone starts to believe in you again, then you disappear again. It's annoying. I'm done with it. But he's somehow worked the team lead with 41 walks, so I'll give him a plus for that. But Taylor Ward, you want to talk about, if you don't agree with me with noodle arm, you don't agree with me with his hustle, you don't agree with the way he swings, agree with me on this. Didn't I just say Joe Adell has high strikeouts with 86? You know who leads the team with strikeouts? Taylor Ward, 99. He's just under the century mark. I don't believe that this dude should be having that many strikeouts. He should be somewhere around maybe 50, 60 strikeouts at this point, and he should have somewhere around the 22 to 23 home runs already. And he should have about 60 to 65 RBIs to put him on pace with maybe a 33 home run, like, I don't know, 100 RBI season. That would be the Taylor Ward. I'm stepping up. I'm going to be your captain. I'm going to be your leader. No, we're getting this Taylor Ward, and I don't like this version of Taylor Ward. Plus, Zach Neto. Zach Neto, again, I'm not liking the average 250. I think he should be around Logan O'Hoppe or higher. And he can, when he gets on base, he is such a great athlete to watch. He steals bases. He's got the celebrations. He's got the hustle. He's always dirty. His defense is tremendous. I love his play. I just think he needs to step it up with more hitting, and I think that's going to come in time because, again, we are forgetting this is barely his first full season. Dude, like other players like O'Hoppe, well, at least O'Hoppe had some time in Philly, but like Shonowell and Neto, they get excuses because they were rushed up. And there's an excuse there for Joe Adell because he's been up and down and thrown all around. But these guys have been thrown into the fire, and I think they're doing okay. They're on pace to be those type of players, just not this season. Speaking of Shonowell, 238, he's been up and down. His average got real low, but credit to him, he's brought it up to 238, and if he can somehow get it to 260 by season's end, I think that is a success. His strikeouts are still a little bit high for me at the position he's at. He's not going to steal bases at your number 1 or number 2 guy, but I like the walks. I like the fact that he's got 32 RBIs. The home runs, that's Darren Erstad, 8 home runs. He doesn't need the power. I like the way he goes to left field. There's a lot of promise in him, trust me, and his defensive glove at first base has gotten much better. Negative for me is Kevin Pillar. Kevin Pillar came off the scrap heap from the Chicago White Sox, and, he's a guy that's turning it around. Had a good first half for the Angels when we were playing him, and then we decided to sit him, and he can't find his swing. His swing is down. His average is down to 288. This is a guy that was batting 324, leading the team, and they decided out of nowhere, analytics decided out of nowhere, no, because of his age, he's not an everyday player. But when you were playing him every day, he was producing, and he was on pace to match or have better numbers if you played him more than Moniak. Louis Renifo's been a plus. 6 home runs, 25 RBIs, batting 315. He's on base percentage is great. His hustle's awesome. His stolen bases, strikeouts are down from previous years. But the key problem with him is little injuries that take him out for a little while. It seems like he gets to that point where he's just so good, and you're starting to see him play every day and starting to see him being a real cog in this freaking lineup. And then he gets an injury, and then boom goes the dynamite. And you lose him for a few weeks, a week or two, and bam, you're back to having him start to try to find his rhythm again. That's how his entire career has been. A negative for me, huge negative. It's time to give up on this guy. 209 hitter Mickey Moniak. I think you got to let him go or try to package him. I don't know who would take him, but only 5 home runs and 28 RBIs, 14 walks only, 69 strikeouts. That's too many in 239 at bats. That's too much. That's like Joe Adell status right there. It's just bad. His on base percentage is down. Only 10 doubles. He should be a doubles hitter. He should not be swinging for strikes. He's easily getting 0-2. I mean, he's 0-2 before he gets in the batter's box. The pitches are up and in. He's fouling them off. They're outside and up, fouling them off. He can't lay off the slider down and low. He's just a wild swinger up there, and no one has changed him. A plus has been Willie Calhoun, getting this guy off the scrap heap. He's batting 269. I know he hit a little rough patch, but just like Kevin Pillar, he needs to play every day. They sit him for a long time, and he hits 2 home runs and gets the next 2 days off. It makes no sense. Make it make sense. Take away the analytics. That's how it makes sense. So those are your players right there. You have obviously number 6 not playing. A disappointment for me, Michael Stefanik not getting more bats before he sent him down. The big disappointment for me, Brendan Drury. I can't stand this guy. We need to cut him. He's 171. I don't like his attitude. He's not a team guy. And a disappointment too was Miguel Sano. I really thought he would fit in. It seemed like we got him. He was doing really good. And then we just, he got injured, and that was it for him. He's just started to suck. So real quick on the pitching, good and bad right here. And the ones that are positive, obviously Tyler Anderson, what a season for him so far. 8-8, 2.97 ERA in 19 starts, 118 innings pitched. He's going to probably be one of your first Angels in a while to hit 200 innings if we were to keep him, which we aren't. He's only allowed 3 home runs. That is the key to his success outside of the walks at 47. He's only allowed 14 home runs. That has come up a little bit. He was actually in single digits there for a while. My bad. Patrick Sandoval, negative 2-8. Obviously, not a bounce back season. A terrible season for him before he had the Tommy John. Jose Soriano, a positive, 5-7 with 3.71 ERA. He's pitched his butt off, 72 strikeouts. Griffin Canning, despite the record, I do like what he's done at times. 3-9 with a 4.84 ERA, 100 innings pitched right there. You have Reed Detmier's big disappointment, 3-6 with a 6 ERA. He's down in the minors, sucking. Then you have Carson Fulmer. I think it's a positive. I've liked what he's done. He could be a trade piece. He's got a 3.45 ERA. He's been decent when called upon. Same thing with Hunter Strickland, 3.48 ERA. Like what he's done. Luis Garcia, the same right there. We DFA'd Suarez, but we got him back, baby. He's got that 8 ERA. He sucks. Another guy that we can move is Carlos Estevez. Nice, solid season. I think he's got up to 12 straight good performances in a row. He's lowered his ERA to 2.61. Only 20 hits in 31 innings pitched. He's pitched really good. Disappointment, Matt Moore, 4-2 with a 4.91 ERA. Those numbers are probably the highest he's had in the last 3 years. Adam Simber started strong. He sucked since. He's got a 7 ERA. He's been hurt for most of the first half of the season. Ronzi Contreras has been not too bad for the Angels at a 4.34 ERA. Let's see. You have Ben Joyce. What a positive. I know it's only been 14 games that he's appeared in with 16 innings pitched, but he's got a 2.76 ERA after having a rough couple starts. I think he's a guy you got to look at besides Soriano and say, these guys are the future. This could be your future closer because he just had that fastball, and some of the best hitters are going to catch up to that fastball, and they did. But what has changed with Joyce is Ron Washington and others, Barry Enright, saying when you got to go down there, you got to work on your stuff. He's got a devastating slider, a great changeup, and splinker, whatever the hell they call it. And he's pitching his butt off. And his ERA looks really good. He's looked dominant. Another guy that has come out of nowhere and is pitching good, Hans Kraus. Yes, the Hanser. 3-0 with a 0.71 ERA, just 5 hits in 12 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's pitched really good for the Angels. I like him moving forward for that bullpen. As he's going to be important going down the stretch for the Angels if they want to have any success in that second half of the season. And speaking of the second half of the season, because we have the schedule pulled up here. We're going to talk about the second half of the season, and that's going to start up in Oakland on July 19th, which is this Friday. The Angels in Oakland will get it started up there. And then they have 3 with Seattle June 22nd through 24th. They come back home for the Oakland A's in retro weekend. It's going to continue through Oakland and Colorado at the Big A through August 1st. And then you get the first of 2 New York teams coming to the Big A. You got the Mets on August 2nd through 4th. And then August 6th through 8th, you got the New York Yankees. Or you go to New York. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me restart that. You have 4 with Oakland at home. It's a 10-game homestand. 3 with Colorado, and then you got 3 with the Mets. Then you go to New York. So if you want to travel, you go to New York, and you have those 3 up there. And then you have Washington at Washington. Then you come back home for a nice little series. If you've never seen a Canadian team, I suggest you do, because there's only one, and that's the Toronto Blue Jays. And although they've struggled, and although they've had a lot of injuries, that is a fun team to watch. They can score a lot of offense, and their pitching's fairly easy to hit. So I'm predicting some pretty good run-scoring games right there. All 3 are 6:38 starts Monday through Wednesday. And then you got the Atlanta Braves. How can you not like watching the Atlanta Braves with all their stars? A team that's contending for the title. That's going to come to the Big A August 16th or 18th. Then you go to Kansas City and Toronto, a nice little road trip right there. I love Kansas City Stadium. I love Kauffman Stadium. It's beautiful. Toronto's their stadium looks much better. I feel for them because Canada needs a championship of some sort. I know they got one with the Raptors, but I was hoping that they would get one with Edmonton. Hockey hasn't won in forever up there. And then you go to Detroit, which, again, they have a obligatory 10 a.m. game on August 29th in the middle of the week on Thursday. That's probably a day I'm gonna go back in time, and I'm gonna pull out my cereal. I'm gonna call in sick, and I'm gonna watch that game with my bowl of cereal at 10 in the morning, because that's what I would do. I would call in sick in high school and watch when they were back in the Midwest, either playing Kansas City on a getaway day, or the Detroit Tigers. And I would do that when they were on the road, just calling sick, that school, fake a sickness and watch a day game. I think that's what I'm gonna do on August 29th. So don't tell my boss. Then they come home for Seattle and the Dodgers. And keep in mind, Angel fans, one of these days, I forget which one it is, September 3rd or September 4th. I'm not sure which one, but it's going to be, those Dodger takeovers you've seen at Yankee Stadium, you've seen in Houston and other stadiums. It's a guy who sets it up, and you best believe one of those days it's going to be obnoxiously all blue in the stands. So then after that, they go to Texas for 4. And then September 9th through 11th, which 11th is my birthday, they're in Minnesota. So a 7-game trip with the Texas Rangers and the Minnesota Twins. Then they come home for the second to last homestand against Houston and Chicago. Boy, they're going to have to give tickets away at this point in the season, especially for September 16th through 18th. 3-game series with Chicago. Chicago and the Angels could be battling for the worst record at that point. And then you go to Houston and play those same White Sox again in Chicago before coming home and finally putting an end to the 2024 season with the Texas Rangers. You'll have Fan Appreciation Day, or I guess Fan Appreciation Weekend, 27th to 29th. Now, in the comments too, will the Angels have a worse second half than the first half, or will they improve? Or do you want them to get draft picks, or do you want them to reload? Do you want them to unload those stars that they have right now, quote unquote, to get better prospects? Only time will tell. But what do you want? What do you want to see in the second half? Do you want to see Trout return and finish out the year strong and maybe get to that 25, 20, or even 30 home run despite all the games he's missed? Because he could do it. He's done it before. Is that going to matter? Captain Solo coming back? When's the next time, in your opinion, number 6 gets hurt? Can he finish the year? Remember, he still has yet to do that and at least play 100 games in a season. And he hasn't even come close to that. So there's a lot of questions. Will we have Tyler Anderson by the end of the year? Will we have this guy? Will we have that guy? Let me know. Let me know what you think. I'll respond back in the comments. But this has been a first half and a look ahead into the second half, kind of overview of the Angels 2024 season. And then maybe by the end of the season, we'll start talking who's in the playoffs, and we'll see. We'll start making predictions on who we think is going to win the World Series. But I will tell you one thing right now. I don't care what kind of injuries they have. I don't care what injuries they don't have. I don't care what players they get in the deadline, which players they don't get in the deadline. I don't care if they have Shohei Ohtani. Dodgers are not winning the World Series yet again. They have still not won one since '88. They have that ring pop that nobody counts. Nobody counts. Kershaw will forever not have a title, and you watch, they will fire their manager, Dave Roberts, at the end of the season. That's my prediction. Dodgers flame out in the first round. I don't care who they play. I don't care who they play. It's just not going to happen for them once again. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for staying on this long on the show. And, that's our show for tonight. As the American League gets another victory, 10 out of 11. The Angels get ready to start the second half of the season in just a couple days. And we'll see where we go from there. Check out our tailgate on the 27th of this month. It will be over at Mezzo. We're not going to be under the Big A. We'll be giving out free shirts and some other memorabilia and your chance to win other prizes and just hang out, try some new food. We'll have lowered prices and give away some free food on that as well. So you're going to have you're going to have discounted food plus some free garlic knots, and I forget what else he's going to give away. But we're going to have a nice little shindig over there at Mezzo off 2406 Catella. More details to come. So for ToddFox and everybody on the post-game podcast and on the Heedy Daily podcast, like and subscribe, tell a friend, and go Angels.